You know, when we think of royals, we often think, don't we, that, well, there are a few things that are not allowed to do. You know, we know they're not allowed to be political. We know that they're really not that much allowed to offer an opinion. Even in the famous royal variety lineup, they can't say whether they enjoyed one comedian more than the other, a dancer or a singer. They have to remain impartial, something a lot of people could learn from, some people might suspect. It's interesting, and I do find this fascinating, is, of course, in this new modern 21st century world, we're allowed, all thanks to the world of social media and sort of re-itemizing video and footage and interviews, to look in more detail is exactly what makes some of our favourite royals tick. And what was interesting about this particular story came from a lot of people asking me the question, Neil, is this true about this senior royal? So I thought I'd explain. Morning, nice to see you. Thank you so much as ever for joining me on yet another beautiful London bus. Yes, you fill them in where you can and all that sort of stuff. We're dashing off to somewhere else now, but I don't want to miss the opportunity. Boiling day here today, so I don't know what it's like in your part of the world. Very humid though, as you can imagine. Nice though, because it's summer, isn't it? Now, some people might say that, of course, this particular royal gets very hot-headed very quickly. We're talking, of course, about His Majesty the King. Now, for many people who watch this channel on a regular basis, they will know that I thoroughly enjoyed the outburst, as of course when, what should we call it, Pengate now. Remember that when sadly he had to sign something, a lot of stress around him. I'm not decrying that on that particular period, but when he picked up the pen and it leaked, he said, "I hate that stinking pen." And I've told you before, Queen Camilla just very tactfully, sidelinely, looking as if trying to hold back some laughter. I have it on very good authority that this happens on quite a lot of occasions. So just how short-tempered is His Majesty the King? Well, what's interesting about this particular story, we saw it last week at the State Opening of Parliament, he seemed to get kind of tetchy with the young page boy who was assisting with his robes and sort of batted him away. There's been other instances, and people say to me, Neil, how tetchy is His Majesty the King? Well, two things, let me tell you. He is very much a stickler for making sure that everything's right and sorted out in the moment. And what he can't really do with, and I think a lot of us would agree with this, is if it's taken so long to set something up, how come on the 11th hour so many things go wrong? Now, would I put him down as tetchy or bad-tempered or short-fused? I've been on quite a few royal events where I've seen flashes of temper. Even last week in Jersey, we saw when the Queen Camilla, was struggling to get a coat on, and of course His Majesty the King snapped all about, or give her a hand. Well, of course, he couldn't give her a hand because he was holding the brolly to keep the rain off and making sure that people were not too distracted by the disaster going around. You get the picture. To conclude, for all of those people out there saying to me, Neil, is His Majesty the King tetchy? Let me just say, he has flashes of his mother and he has a lot of flashes of his father. Now, we all know exactly what the Duke of Edinburgh was like, His Royal Highness Prince Philip. We saw that famously when he told the photographer to get on with taking the picture. Remember that? So I would say there's a little bit of both, as I'm sure there are in everybody who has wonderful parents, and sometimes good, sometimes bad. Neil Sean in the very heart of London on a red London bus.